MoxStars podcast. I am Menace, one of your hosts, and I'm here with Flash.
What is up?
What's up, dude? Welcome to the show, everybody. It's the MoxStars podcast, the number one podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. And a multitude of other things, like our love for Don Cheadle. That's number one on the planet. There's no combating that or arguing that. Don Cheadle is our favorite.
Well, what about the Dyson Bladeless fan?
You know, the technology, it exists, and we love it. Welcome to the show, everybody. If you'd like to support the show, you can find us on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more notifications. 552 subscribers. We're going to, one step at a time, we're going to make it to 600, and then 700, and then 1,000. That's the jump. There's no jump. There's no 800. It's always 700 to 1,000. It's always known. It's been that way for all of YouTube. You can also support us via all major podcasting platforms, where you can leave us a comment like our buddy the Baked Chef, who went all the way back to our last where the announcement of the last Airbender happened, left us a comment that said, "The last fart bender. You'll love to see it." Got him. You can also leave us a 5-star review to make us look super duper cool. You can also support us via Patreon by becoming an official Pepperhead. Become an official Pepperhead for $3 a month. Support us. Have your name turned Dr. Pepper Red on the Discord server. And then you can also support us at the 2-liter tier. For $10 a month, you get 2 free entries in each of our bi-weekly giveaways. And you're just super rad. You're just super rad, dude. Like definitely Jeremy, Cool Boy Barry, UWP Court, and Aaron Becca. Thank you all for your support, and looking forward to the end of the episode where we're doing our giveaway this week. You can also support us at the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier. For $5 a month, you get 1 entry into each of our bi-weekly giveaways. Or you can support us like Ravenlift in the MoxStars Dr. Pepper Lounge. Get 3 entries and a free hat, and you get to hang out in the MoxStars Dr. Pepper Lounge with LeBron James, his fake family, Don Cheadle, the Tasmanian Devil, who I notably mention often, any other WB, IPs that feel necessary to mention that hang out in the lounge?
I don't know about hanging out in the lounge because I haven't seen them around, but the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes original movie dropped on Max recently, and it's pretty good. Okay. Flash recommended.
On this week's episode, there's one thing that I need to mention before we get into anything Magic the Gathering related. This morning, the New York Times published their Reader's Top 100 Films of the Century. 25 years in, Top 100 Films of the Century. And notably, there was a film on there that I recognized. Tar came in at number 68. One away from being the best movie of all time. What do you have to say for yourself, Flash?
I voted for it 10,000 times, so that might have been me. I might be responsible for that.
Yeah. Well, it was funny enough that later in the article, someone had written, well, there was this film that I felt like should have made the cut. And the first response was, Tar was far better than that film. And I was like, what is going on with the Tar love today? Apparently I need to
it's it was not necessarily underappreciated at the time. I think people are just like real.
Oh, you were a little broken up there. One more time.
Whatever. Nah, I'm good.
Something. Tar is underappreciated at the time, but now people are starting to recognize how awesome it is, right? Something with that gist?
There you go. You got it.
Yeah, sick.
Something in that nature.
I think that at this point I'm starting to recognize that as well. Just the amount of love and appreciation that it's getting. The more I talk about it, the more my phone is listening, the more it will pop up on my feed, the more it'll get recommended to me, and eventually it'll become free to stream.
Honestly, you should just watch it.
I know. I'm just waiting for whatever streaming platform offers it up to me. Really?
I think it's on Prime. I think it's free on Prime.
Free on Prime.
Or it was.
Okay. Well, if you didn't know it, there's also a little accent mark above the A. So,
hey, I have a question. Speaking of Amazon.
Yeah.
Just real quick. Do you think Gavin was invited to Jeff Bezos' wedding in Venice?
I don't know. 95 private jets landed at the property. So one of them might have been Gavin Verhey's private jet or private spacecraft. Oh. Seeing as these now,
which
now can be a commander. We've been seeing a lot more spoilers for Edge of Eternities, which, okay, I've never been one for the MTG story, right? Like, I have been in the past when they released the little storybook in the fat packs. They stopped doing that a while back. It's like War of the Spark was like the last one, I think. But they used to release a storybook in the fat packs, and so you get like a deep insight into what the set was about just by purchasing the product. But now you actually have to go out and hunt for it. And I'm on the hunt. I was on the hunt, and I have secured my prey, because if you can, you can listen to the MTG story via podcast. The MTG story podcast is worth a download and listen. They have an incredibly sultry voice that is currently reading the Edge of Eternity's story right now. And there are some moments where this voice chooses to emphasize certain words, and I'm like, huh? Why'd you say it like that? For moments that are like more serious, it's like, and I'm like, oh shit, that was a moment that I was not expecting. So it's definitely worth a listen. It's been a lot of fun. Some of the storytelling is shallow, and they expect you to, they have to write a story for these sets once every 6 weeks. So I can't imagine the greatest minds in literature are pumping out, new tales of, or creative nuance that is going to excite the mind at all times. But
have you heard the story that Sir Francis Bacon actually writes all the MTG lore?
Who is Sir Francis Bacon?
Isn't that the guy they say wrote Shakespeare secretly? Not Sir Francis Bacon, some other guy.
Well, Sir Francis Bacon is a person. A philosopher,
and absolutely
a philosopher and former Lord High Chancellor of Great Britain, Sir Francis Bacon. Wow. A lawyer, statesman, essayist, historian, intellectual reformer, and philosopher. Wow. And apparently a dog who got adopted on Facebook just a month ago.
Congrats.
Congratulations to you, Sir
Francis Bacon.
Yes.
Both human and dog.
The story is worth a listen because it does give you insight into the characters and legendary creatures that are going to be on display in Edge of Eternities. The thing is, I think even though the storytelling isn't incredibly wonderful, they are doing a great job at world building and building like this, the idea that this is a massive galaxy or like universe of like, there's star travel involved and stuff like that. And this is, if you didn't know, like Edge of Eternity is like the space between planes that is being navigated by our current heroes. And also, if you didn't know, the story centers around finding a legendary cat named Miri. So take that for what it's worth. But Miri, a legendary cat, was not yet humanoid.
A very guileful cat.
Yes. Notably your favorite card.
My favorite card in the history of Magic the Gathering
is Miri's Guile. But there's our protagonist whose name is Sammy, who is chasing Miri across the universe. Not the multiverse, but the universe. And is on the hunt. And I think it's great that there is the return of Kavu. Kavu are back. Like, they're they're not just like beasts in the woods like on Dominaria. They are
your favorite brand of outdoor gear.
Well, man, it's funny you bring that up. I'm a partner of the company, and I can't quite say for the life of me that it is excellent outdoor gear. It is, they might rescind my partnership at this point after listening to this podcast. If someone from the company is listening, I'm sorry, but you refuse to make waterproof gear. You're not outdoor gear. Like, in Seattle, you're not going to make anything waterproof. What are you doing? Why? Just make it waterproof. Plus, they stopped making all their fun prints, man. They used to have some really fun prints. Their bags used to be like one of a kind, collectible type things. And then they're like, we need to meet a wider demographic. So they started making plain stuff. And I'm like,
oh man,
I want unique stuff, man. That's why you guys got popular in the first place. So pour one out for the old Kavu, but the new Kavu from Edge of Eternities. Oh, brother. They're sentient. They're like things that can converse with humans. So there's a few legendary Kavu that are like, they have their own planet, and they are capable of space travel, all these things, and they have their own like religion and culture, and that's where like the world building, right, of this Edge of Eternity story is excellent. And yeah, I'm excited for that. They're mostly in Gruul, probably in Naya a little bit, but I'm excited for Kavu to be at the forefront of Magic the Gathering once more. And to get some support, because the outdoor.
Where were they previously in the Magic lore?
I think the last one we saw was Modern Horizons 2, where we had a domain Kavu for 2 mana. It was a red and a green, and its power and toughness was equal to the different types of lands you controlled. So like it could be a 5/5 that had an attack trigger. And then before that, it was the last time it might have been, actually the most recent might have been Dominaria United. I can't quite remember. We're about to find out. But I do remember them being in like the original Dominaria. That's where the Untamed Kavu came from. And then Territorial Kavu was the Modern Horizons 2 card. There was a Kavu in Dominaria United, the Defiler of Instinct, which was these Defilers, the whole cycle of Defilers. Outside of the green one, the other 4 are slept on. They're so slept on. It hurts me to like see that the cards with such great design, they basically turn red, whatever color they're in, they turn the cost of the spells that you would cast into Phyrexian mana. So as an additional cost to pay or to cast red permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost, pip less to cast if you paid life this way. The effect reduces only the amount of red mana you pay. So, and then Defiler of Instinct says whenever you cast a red permanent spell, Defiler of Instinct deals 1 damage to any target. Any target. And it's a 4/4 first strike. Crazy. Just crazy that that's not playable. Anyway, yeah, Kavu. There's a new one. Tunuk Memorial and Sign. It's one a red and a green. Legendary Kavu pilot. A 2/4 that has landfall. That whenever a land you control enters, Tunuk deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is the second time this ability has resolved this turn. Draw a card. So, I think this is somewhat playable in those Chocobo shells in Standard. So, yeah, drop a Chocobo, drop this, play a land, deal 1 damage to each opponent and draw a card. Seems pretty good. Anyway, it isn't uncommon, so I don't think it's going to be format warping. But speaking of Standard and format warping, this is a great transition. This might be one of our best transitions of all time. The Banned and Restricted announcement from June 30th. If you never, we're always the Slowpoke show. We publish once a week, and so everyone's already talked about it, formed their opinions on the happenings of Magic the Gathering throughout the week. But this is our first chance to talk about the Banned and Restricted announcement that happened, and we're going to do it. We're going to talk about it. So, wah. This was jarring. This was jarring for a lot of players in the Magic community, whether you're just a Commander player, whether you're just a Modern player or whatever. You heard about this. This came to your doorstep. You read about this, you heard about this, and you saw that 7 cards got banned from Standard. Corey Steel Cutter is banned. Abuelo's Awakening, Monstrous Rage, Heartfire Hero, Up the Beanstalk, Hopeless Nightmare, and This Town Ain't Big Enough all got banned from Standard this week. Huge change to the format because at MagicCon, if you weren't aware, if this didn't end up on your doorstep, if you didn't hear about this Pro Tour, 40% of the field was, is it Corey Steel Cutter? Which is just insane. I don't think I've ever heard of a deck being that prominent or that played ever at a Grand Prix. And then right behind it, I think it was 15% or almost 20% was mono red mouse aggro. So kind of insane.
And what are those decks? Assuming I'm unfamiliar with Standard.
Oh, what's that? What are those decks?
What are those decks? Yeah.
So Corey Steel Cutter is a 2-mana artifact that says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess, and then you may attach Corey Steel Cutter to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and haste. It's equipped for a 1 and a red. So you cast this as your first spell, and then you make your second spell a Monstrous Rage, which also banned, is 1 red mana, an instant that says target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Create a monster roll attached to it. A monstrous roll is +1/+1 trample. So that is a token token aura gets attached to the creature. Never before have they printed a 1 mana +3/+1 and perma trample for a combat trick. So this was definitely a big change. This is format warping when it came out, but basically the idea was with Is It Corey Steel Cutter was that you are playing just a ton of opt moment of truth type things just to filter until you could get to Corey Steel Cutter. There were a couple other things like Drake Hatcher and whatever. Drake Hatcher was whenever you cast a non-creature, you put a counter on it, or an egg counter on it, and then you can remove 3 egg counters and create a 2/2 Drake. So all those things sort of bled into each other. It was really consistent, really powerful, and then all you had to basically do, depending on your matchup, was play Stone Brains or Graveyard Hate, because there was another deck that was also incredibly powerful, which was Abuelo's Awakening Omniscience. So this was Azorius Omniscience. And Abuelo's Awakening is X3 and a white. That is, return target artifact or non-aura enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. It's a 1/1 spirit creature token, or creature with flying in addition to its other types. So you would never put X's more than 0. You would just 3 and a white, reanimate Omniscience from your graveyard, and then you would go through this Invasion of Arcavios loop and end up like using your sideboard cards from your sideboard, because it allowed you to search outside the game for certain cards as well, and then create this loop, and then you're just casting infinite spells, recycling your library, blah 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 blah, until until you find a way to win the game. So the Monstrous Rage and Mono Red Mouse Turbo was also disgusting because it revolved around one card. Now, Monstrous Rage was good in many ways. Monstrous Rage was worthy of banning because it was also a card that people were using in VV. Because if you have VV out and you put a Monstrous Rage on it, it gets a counter, and then it gets the monstrous roll, and then it gets the +2/+0. So it adds 4 mana to your mana pool. So it offsets, even you cast VV, you cast Monstrous Rage, you've now offset all of the investment, and now you get 4 more mana to continue pumping out spells. So disgusting. It's good that it's gone. Anyway, Mono Red Mice. Heartfire Hero was the card that this pretty much centralized around. It was 1 red mana. I say was because it is never coming back. It is likely, I should say, a Heartfire Hero also sees a ban in Pioneer, but it is 1 red mana for a 1/1 mouse soldier that has Valiant. Whenever Heartfire Hero becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Heartfire Hero dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So, the classic play was land, turn 1, Heartfire Hero, turn 2, some sort of ability to target it, like Monstrous Rage, and then another mouse, or you're playing. There's this land from Bloomburrow as well. That's just 1 red, or has an activated ability that says pay 1 red mana, tap it, target mouse you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste. And so both were viable plays, but you would just most of the time drop the Heartfire Hero, hit it with a Monstrous Rage, swing through, and then all of a sudden you're dealing, it's 6 damage that goes through. So it's like a turn 2, get punched for 6. And then you're also playing the Callous Sellsword, which is a Rakdos card, but it has an adventure for 1 red mana. You can sacrifice a creature you control to deal damage equal to its power to target opponent. So what would happen is you'd hit it with a Monstrous Rage, it'd be 6 mana or 6 power, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, hit it with the Callous Sellsword. You sacrifice it, deals 6 more damage to your opponent, and then the Heartfire Hero trigger goes on the stack. You deal 6 more damage. So on turn 2, you've done 18 damage, and you just need like a Burst Lightning or a Lightning Bolt or something like that, and the game's over. So it's oftentimes potentially a turn 2, but more often than not, it was a turn 3 like clock. And it was disgusting. It was really, really powerful. Where Abuelo's Awakening, if everything goes perfectly, you have the interaction to take care of the Heartfire Hero, and then on turn 4, you Abuelo's Awakening for an Omniscience, and you just win the game. So even and Corey Steelcutter was also a turn 3 deck, but most of the time it was like these decks that were at the top of standard were winning turn 5 at the latest. And that's just not a format that anyone really wants to play, especially since it's 3 decks making up 85 to 90% of the pool. Like, if you want to be competitive, you're not like you are not playing anything outside of those three. And that was proven at Grand Tour. And then the following weekend, there was the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy Spotlight, where all of these cards were still legal, and Corey Steelcutter was still like 50% of the entries. So kind of gross, kind of disgusting. So those are the three decks that were basically the top of the format. I've seen them everywhere. If you've been watching arena content, you've seen them all over the place. And your content creators like CGB or Swayze or Ash Lizzle, whoever you choose to watch, would always lament when they're like, oh, great, mono red. Oh, great, Corey Steelcutter. Oh, great, here's this. Here, Omniscience. Blah. Now, there are a few other cards that got banned. Up the Beanstalk. And the reasons for the bannings, if you go through and you want to read this whole article, I'll make sure I put it down in the description below. But to keep from basically just reverting back to a meta, basically banning the new stuff that came out and just reverting back to an old meta where it just becomes stale and still relatively unplayable with things like domains still being legal, they decided we're going to ban these as well. Even though a lot of these cards only have one more month in standard, we want to kickstart the creative deck building process now. So Up the Beanstalk, 1 and a green, says when it enters the battlefield and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. So this is an enchantment that, replaces itself, and it's supposed to reward you for like playing bigger, splashier spells, getting deeper into the game. But it took over. It is disgusting how much card advantage you could get, especially since it's not legendary. You can land multiple of them. You cast it replaces itself. Sweet, I picked up another one. I'll cast that. It replaces itself. Great, I just got a Leyline. What was it? Oh God, why can't I think of it? It's 5 and a white Leyline that is being used in standard. I can't remember it. I'm going to look it up. Oh gosh, if you know in the comments below, make me not look so stupid. It's Leyline Binding. Like you viewers can comment in real time. But Leyline Binding, 5 and a white, flash, domain, spell costs 1 less for each basic land type among lands you control. So here's the thing, is that even though the cost is reduced, Up the Beanstalk checks on the stack. And so you cast this for 1 mana. It's not that, it doesn't check to see how much mana you spent. It just checks the mana value. So even though you only spent 1 mana, it still counts as a 5+ mana card. And so for 1 white mana, I've got 2 Beanstalks on. I'll draw 2 cards and I'll exile a non-land permanent you control. So Leyline Binding was a problem, is still a problem, but the card draw advantage like that Up the Beanstalk gave you is now gone. And that also in tandem, like comboed with another card that got banned, This Town Ain't Big Enough. It's 4 and a blue that says the spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a permanent you control. Return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. So the idea was that you bounce one of your things and one of your opponent's things. So you get set back a little bit, but now you could abuse, recurable ETB effects. So this would also count towards your Up the Beanstalk, would also draw you cards. You could even cast it, bounce the Beanstalk, cast the Beanstalk again, and then you get multiple card draws off this whole thing. So it allowed you to get too deep into the deck, and games would just come to a very controlling state. Beanstalk was a catalyst for that, being 4-color. So this is where Atraxa Domain was a deck for a long time. They just wanted to make sure that didn't just come back and just be the top of the meta again. So these are very thoughtful bans. I do think that they were necessary. This Town Ain't Big Enough was a problem for a long time. I thought it was bannable maybe a couple months in, but they needed to like this. And this isn't like, hey, June 30th ban list is in response to what happened at Vegas or what happened at Spotlight Final Fantasy. This is the 6-month mark. You know, this isn't just like, hey, we're responding to that. This is our planned scheduled ban window. So yeah, this isn't like reactionary or anything.
It just happened to coincide.
Yes. They've been thinking about it. They've at least had these things locked and loaded for a little bit. And then the last card to get banned was Hopeless Nightmare. It was an insane common. Even when I read it, when I went to the like Wilds of Eldraine draft, it's 1 black mana for an enchantment at common that says when Hopeless Nightmare enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. When Hopeless Nightmare is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2, you can pay 2 and a black to sacrifice Hopeless Nightmare. So, in conjunction with this town ain't big enough, it's kind of insane where you can just keep bouncing it back. It is a win condition on its own, right? It's like, what if they don't have any cards to discard? Do they still lose the 2 life? Yes, they do. So you could just keep basically accruing value, keeping cards out of your opponent's hand, and then making them lose 2 life. There's also Nurturing Pixie, which was a 1 white mana creature from Outlaws of Thunder Junction that said when it enters the battlefield, you can return a non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. And then if it was a non-land permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's basically a 2/2 flyer that recycled your Hopeless Nightmare. And that deck was also very annoying because you could also pair it with things like Temporary Lockdown. And then you would play the Temporary Lockdown, and then it would exile everything. And then you play a Pixie, you bounce the Lockdown, and then everything comes back out because the Lockdown takes everything mana value 2 or less and puts it underneath it until it leaves the battlefield. So you would have things happen like, oh, Hopeless Nightmare, Momentum Breaker, and then a couple other like sacrifice effects or discard effects, Bandit's Talent, something like that. Play Temporary Lockdown, all in the same deck. You're exiling your own things on purpose. And then you Nurturing Pixie, and then all of that stuff re-enters the battlefield. Hopeless Nightmare, Momentum Breaker. They sacrifice their creatures. They discard their hand. They lose 4 life. They do all these things. It was a really, if you're playing it, it was a lot of fun. But if you're playing against it, it was really disgusting. So Hopeless Nightmare needed to go. It is one of the, I'd say it's probably the best common in a long time. It's really good. And the artwork is fantastic. Dominic Meyer, tip my hat to you, sir. I have if you're watching on YouTube, I am pantomiming that gesture. Yep. Great artist. I hope that you are at a MagicCon soon so that I can get multiple things signed or purchase prints from your and get artwork from the crazy mind of Dominic Meyer. Beautiful stuff. Let's see. Yeah, oh yeah. So they do provide some deck lists down below. I forgot about this, but yeah, you can see sort of like what the decks were that were like taking over. So when I explained them all, I could have just scrolled down and shown everybody what they were. But instead I used my brain, my memory, and my experiences with these decks to flex on y'all. What's up? That's what these decks do from the brain of Menace. But yeah, there's deck lists down here if you really wanted to see. Again, this will be in the description. So if you're on YouTube and you do want to see these deck lists, Drake Hatcher, Vivi were all part of the deck. Storm Chaser's Talent. And then Azorius Omniscience, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I already talked about all this. Why would you ever want to go down and look? Domain Overlords, Orzhov Pixie. Sweet. I covered it all. I really did, just from memory alone. Such a wow. Wow, Menace, how do you do it? I don't know. Just a really smart guy. Just a really smart guy. All right, since this is the Slowpoke show, and we react to things that we have seen this week that y'all have already thought about and maybe moved past because of how quickly things happen in Magic the Gathering land. We have also, this is our first opportunity to react to Sonic the Hedgehog becoming canon in the Magic the Gathering universe. Welcome to Super Smash Bros. The Gathering, because Sonic the Hedgehog is here with, I don't know if you realize this, but Sonic, Cloud, Sephiroth, Ken, and Ryu are all Super Smash Brothers characters. So, are all characters in Super Smash Brothers. That's, well, now Magic the Gathering, you can recreate a Super Smash Brothers fight in Commander. It's kind of crazy, right? That's how Fortnite-y we've gotten, is, the collective IP is just insane. But anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog is now being released in a super drop, secret lair super drop. And there are some things that are fundamentally wrong with this concept. We saw it with Deadpool. We saw it with The Walking Dead. We saw it with, what was that show called? Stranger Things. That's a show I haven't heard about in a long time. Glad they stopped making that. It was definitely at the end of its life cycle for sure. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog is here. But mechanically unique cards again are present in secret lairs. The problem inherently with that is that these are now limited print. They are not printed to demand, which has been something that even the professor has gone on to say, like, please just switch it back so people can get these cards so that they're not, for a card that it's a play thing. Is it, you know what I mean? Like, people should have access to it if they want to purchase the product. But since it's limited print run, there's this whole FOMO. So everyone's going to show up on the Super Drop goes live on July 14th. And then they're legal. They are legal in Commander. Non-foil versions of the drop will be speeding into WPN game stores for purchase on August 21st. But the drop goes live on July 14th. So there's a good chance that on August 21st, it'll be a shock that when you see this on the shelves, you will have already witnessed 2 more secret layers drop, and your attention span will not have remembered that Sonic even happened. So we have, was it 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new cards and 7 new cards and a bunch of reskins. So let's go through them. The mechanically unique cards. Flash, I know this is something you even texted me on the side about, but, and we'll get to it, the Sonic and Shadow thing. But the first card we have is Super State. 7 colorless mana. It is an aura that says enchant creature you control. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 9/9 and has flying, first strike, trample, and haste. Wow. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So that seems good. That seems, if you land that with like your Bruna, that's an oldie. That's an old commander. Way back in the day, Azorius Bruna. But if you're able to land this on a creature and swing through because it has trample, haste, flying, and first strike, you're going to deal a whole lot of damage to the table. I don't foresee that card really being a problem or being played all that often, but it is good nonetheless. You want to drop 7 mana on something and have swing through for 9/9. That's crazy. I think that's actually good. That's actually really good. Next we have Knuckles, the Echidna, 2 and 2 red. I think this card's cEDH viable. It is a legendary Echidna warrior has double strike, trample, and haste. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. We've seen that text before. That's professional Facebreaker text. It also has Treasure Hunter. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 30 or more artifacts, you win the game. So this also has that whole the dragon text, you know, the one that steals artifacts from your opponents. I can't remember it. I could remember all those standard decks, cannot remember that for some reason. But it has a win condition. Kooky.
So this is professional face breaker in the end zone with the win contact.
Absolutely. If you miss that at home.
Plus more.
Yep. Yeah, plus more. If you miss that at home, Flash was just saying, yeah, this is a professional face breaker with a win con attached. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, so tying it all together. But yeah, it has even...
Yeah, whatever.
It even has viable keywords as double strike, trample, and haste. So it comes through, swings in. It's probably getting you 2 treasures. Probably going to swing at somebody that's low on creatures or doesn't want to, sacrifice the things you put in front of it. It's a 2/4, and I think this is viable. I think this is competitive, and the artwork is not competitive. The artwork is some of the worst I've ever seen. Like, it might emulate what, like the cartoon, maybe the TV show. But out of all of the artworks for all of these cards, Knuckles is just, as a standout, the worst one for potentially one of the better cards. It really sucks. It really sucks. But it's a good card. So it'll get played regardless. Anyway, Amy Rose is the next card. 2, a red, and a white. Legendary Hedgehog Warrior. A 3/3 with haste. Whenever Amy Rose attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment to her. Then up to 1 target attacking creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Amy Rose's power. One other target. I thought maybe, Amy would be able to target herself, but she cannot. So up to 1 other gets Amy's power. That's pretty good. I can definitely see like building a fun commander deck around that. So next is Dr. Eggman. This is your Grixis villain, your super villain from the show. 2 blue, black, and a red. No Jim Carrey artwork. A little disappointing. Would have liked to see a little Jim Carrey action.
They didn't license it. Unfortunate.
Super unfortunate.
Gotta license it for all media.
Yep. They've run into that already. So this is a 5-mana Grixis commander, a legendary human scientist, a 3/6 flying. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. That player discards a card, or you may put a construct, robot, or a vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. That's, that could be good. It could be good. I'm not sure if it is good, but it could be good. Well, and man, a whiff a little bit. They didn't put spacecraft on here. Construct, robot, or vehicle. No spacecraft.
Does he, in the lore, have space implications? Or is he primarily Earthbound?
Primarily Earthbound, but in the most recent movie, if you watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3, they do end up in a spacecraft. So, constructed by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, spoilers alert, who is also played by Jim Carrey.
If we can't get Don Cheadle on the show, we should try for James Marsden.
Dude, yes, I love James Marsden. He's good in everything. Well, this is the #1 podcast for Magic the Gathering, Dr. Pepper, Don Cheadle, and if we can't get Don Cheadle, James Marsden. New tagline for the show. All right, next we have Miles, Tails Prower. 1 a white and a blue, Fox Artificer, a 3/1 flash flying. Whenever a vehicle you control enters, draw a card if it has flying. Otherwise, you put a flying counter on it. It doesn't sound very strong. I think in the right build, it draws a lot of cards. It's unfortunate that's a 3/1 because it just gets sniped by anything. Orcish Bowmasters, to say.
Is it notable that there's many like vehicle interactions being printed after the recent Commander rules change?
I don't know. That is a good point to bring up. Maybe, let me see. There weren't really. There's one vehicle that is in this super drop, but yeah, no, I haven't really. Maybe that is why they're being a little on the nose with it. You saw it, I didn't. Nice work, Flash. All right.
That's what I'm here for.
Now we go into the two cards that are most highly anticipated. Let's start with Shadow. This one has caused a little bit of controversy already because content creators for cEDH and just Magic in general freaked out a little bit when they saw this. But Shadow the Hedgehog, 2 black mana and 2 red mana. So a Rakdos Legendary Hedgehog Mercenary is a 4/2 with haste. Whenever Shadow the Hedgehog or another creature you control with flash or haste dies, draw a card. And then this is the ability that everybody is lamenting playing against because it is called Chaos Control. Each spell you cast has split second if mana from an artifact was spent to cast it. Whew. If you're unfamiliar with what split second is, as long as it's on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. Yeah.
So what is the upside here? That now things like World Gorger and a lot of the other fragile Rakdos combos can be uninterrupted?
Basically, the resolution of a spell cannot be interrupted. Right? And that also means you can't maintain priority or anything like that either. So like World Gorger probably pops off in this, but it's like the World Gorger ability when it enters the battlefield, because it's not being cast by artifact mana, still is interactable. But the thing that you're using, like the Animate Dead or whatever, cannot be interacted with once if Shadow's on the battlefield, if you used artifact mana. So a split second goes on the stack. No one can do anything. Boom. Animate Dead, target World Gorger. That's where you can interact. I think the thing is that it also it is 2 colors, but it is worth it when you can pull it out of the deck with things like Sisay. And so 5 color decks love this. It's not that hard to achieve for them. I think that was kind of like where it was like maybe the pips are a little restrictive, but I think that people will find a way around it in order to make that happen for themselves. I don't know if Dockside was still around, this would be insane, but I don't necessarily know how strong this is. I think it's just the collective brain of Magic the Gathering players freaked out because they saw split second, and I did initially freak out when I saw it. Like I was just like, oh man, a treasure like gives a spell split second if Shadow is on the battlefield. So yes, split second is probably a bit much, but it doesn't stop. The thing is that it also replaces itself. That is where I would draw the line and say, like, hey, if it just had haste and chaos control, fine, right? But the fact that when it dies or another creature with flash or haste dies, you draw a card. There are tons of enchantments or artifacts like Urbrass Forge that you play in that deck that it creates a token with haste and then it sacrifices at the end step. So you would draw a card off of just Urbrass Forge doing a thing. So that's where I think Shadow is that's the stronger of the... They're equally powerful effects. I can't even say that's the stronger of the two because the split second thing is nuts. It's kind of insane. So Shadow, welcome to Magic the Gathering. I don't know how to appropriately react because I have not played against it. Nobody's played against it yet. And, well, it's going to take time. Like, I think the thing that scared me the most about cEDH recently is, like, Ral Monsoon Mage is way faster than Shadow's ever going to be. Like, ironically enough, it's like, yeah, that Ral deck is just going to pop off way before Shadow can even see the battlefield. So I'm not necessarily worried about Shadow like warping cEDH or anything like that. I do think it does create some unfun play patterns in casual Commander, or if you build like an artifact deck built around Shadow, and then it's just like, yeah, I'll just do whatever I want. Nobody can interact with me. And that's a big part of the game, is being able to interact with your opponents, and Shadow doesn't allow for that. So that's why I would say, as a design point, it's a little unfun for players, creates some unhealthy play patterns. But any thoughts for you, Flash, on Shadow here?
No, it's just, I think it's interesting, the vehicle interaction perhaps, and then also that they are in the universes beyond have definitely over a few sets now shifted to mechanically unique cards that are playable, which was not always the ethos.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it was like, even though they were printing mechanically unique cards, they weren't always overpowered. They're more fun and kitschy. Like the Street Fighter, I will say the Street Fighter Secret Lair, still one of the best ever made, because none of those cards were like warping anything. Like they were playable in Commander if you wanted to build around them, and they were mechanically unique, but never were they overpowered. Like Dulcim was the only one that really saw play, and then that was still a build around where not everyone wanted to make those sacrifices. So this is, yeah. And now we have, and the last one we have is Sonic. We do have Sonic. Don't worry, they didn't forget about Sonic. 1 blue, red, and a white Hedgehog Warrior. It's a 2/4, not a 4/2. So the opposite of Shadow. Haste with gotta go fast. Whenever Sonic the Hedgehog attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with Flash or Haste. So notably, that Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic all have haste. So does Shadow. And Amy also has haste. But yeah, so Sonic, when he attacks, is going to put a +1/+1 counter on all of these Echidna Hedgehog monstrosities. And then whenever a creature you control with Flash or Haste is dealt damage, create a tapped treasure token. So if any of your creatures become blocked, you're going to create a treasure off of that trigger. A tapped treasure. So I think this is a really, really, really fun build around. I think Sonic is the best card in the set by far, and not based on power, but by design. By design, this card is fair. It is fun. It requires a brain to build, and isn't sweaty. It isn't a sweaty card at all. Knuckles can be a sweaty card. Shadow is the sweatiest card I've ever seen in my life. Like, but Sonic looks fun. Sonic looks like, if you're a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, that is a card that I would want to build around. So good. Kudos to you. Tip my hat. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm pantomiming this. Tipping my hat to the design team for Sonic. For the rest of it, Dr. Eggman, sure. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm tipping my hat on YouTube. If Dr. Eggman, sure, tip my hat. Super State, sure, tip my hat. Whatever. The rest of it, that's you're watching on YouTube, I'm not tipping my hat. And we have the rest of the super drop. They've reskinned some equipment because, well, all of the hedgehogs and echidnas wear either gloves or shoes. So there's an equipment called Turbo Gear, super drop, Lightning Greaves, Hammer of Nazan, Dr. Eggman's Mirror Battle Sphere. So, sweet stuff. Shadow's Air Shoes, Swiftfoot Boots, and Knuckles Gloves, the Reaver Cleaver. So that's a good reprint right there. Good value. And then you also have Tails Tornado, Sonic's Biplane. So the Weatherlight. And then there's another drop, which is some spells featuring one of each character. You have Generous Gift, Open the Armory, Fabricate, Deadly Dispute, Unexpected Windfall. And you actually have a beautiful Soul Ring. Beautiful, with Sonic the Hedgehog being featured. And they also have a treasure token, which, if you can imagine it, it is real. It is one of the rings that you collect when you're playing Sonic the Hedgehog. So I think that's good. I thought they'd make the Soul Ring, the ring, like the gold rings you collect in the game. But nah, it's treasure. It's a treasure token. Anyway, I think I've done probably enough talking for the day. When I go to work later today, no talking. But Chef, how do I do this? Get it? Got it. Sweet. Flash, any final thoughts on the things we've discussed today? Standard bannings and Sonic the Hedgehog? Tar being the number 68 film?
I mean, plenty of thoughts about Tar. That's a whole other podcast.
Well, we're have to start another podcast, it sounds like. Talkin' Tar. That's a good name. Talkin' Tar. All right. This has been the MoxStars podcast, the number one podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering, Dr. Pepper and Don Cheadle. And if not Don Cheadle, James Marsden. If you'd like to support the show, you can find us on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. You can also support us via major podcasting platforms and minor podcasting platforms, where you can leave us a comment on Spotify or leave us a 5-star review to make us look super cool. Say something nice, like the last fart bender. You can also support us via Patreon by becoming an official Pepperhead. You can have your name turned Dr. Pepper Red on the Discord server for $3 a month. You can also support us at the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier. For $5 a month, you get an entry into each of our bi-weekly giveaways, like Maybe Anthony, KB, Mono Greg, Jacob Hibbard, Tommy Cypher, McKay Mr. K, and Will Rule. You can also support us at the 2-liter tier. For $10 a month, get 2 entries into each of our bi-weekly giveaways. You can also support us at the MoxStars Dr. Pepper Lounge tier. For $50 a month, get 3 entries, a free hat, and an extended, lengthy shout-out for Reven Lift. Basically twice a show. Every once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. Reven Lift. All right. Whew. What an episode. Tons of talking, tons of stuff about Magic the Gathering. I think I've had my fill. Let's get the heck out of here, Flash. Peace.
Bye.
All right. If you're here, you know what it is. It's this week's bi-weekly giveaway, and we're giving away a Dragon Shield Red Dragon playmat signed by yours truly, Menace. And we're also giving away a pack of Dragon Shield Amethyst sleeves. But don't get it twisted. We're not sponsored. We're just cool people who have Dragon Shield product. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up 3 times. 1, 2, and 3, and spin that wheel. Oh, yeah. Let's see who wins. You're also going to get a can cap and a pog as well. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's definitely Jeremy. One more time, my dude. Thank you all
for supporting the show. Thank you all so much for participating. And yeah, can't wait till next time. Thanks again for listening to the show, checking it out. And if you've watched all the way to the end, you've done the best thing that you can possibly do for the channel. So thank you very much. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.